Hi, it's Grandma here, and I am reading The House of 60 Fathers. And the chapter that I'm reading is chapter number 8. And in chapter number 8, Tien Pao is formulating a plan on how he's going to find his parents, even though his interpreter thinks it's pointless, that he's never going to be able to find his parents with so many people leaving on so many roads. But the doctor is convinced, the interpreter, that this is important to Tien Pao, that he can do this. I'm beginning on page 153. The sun is shining, Tien Pao told the doctor in Chinese to explain his dreadful driving hurry. A whole long day I can watch, and watch without any hunger, and I've slept a whole long night. He took the doctor's hand and gripped it, but it was to hurry the man to the jeep. The interpreter got back into the back seat of the jeep. He had a paper carton with Tien Pao's lunch and a huge paper bag with potato peelings for Glory of the Republic. Tien Pao laughed delightedly and stroked the creased trousers of his new uniform. Everybody here is wonderful, even to my pig. And I want to remind you that Tien Pao is wearing a little soldier's uniform that the interpreter cut down for him. If that were all, the interpreter said, but the doctor has planned a great surprise for you late this afternoon when he comes back with the jeep to take you from the rock to the barracks. He does not want you to walk the distance. By that time, you're 65. The men should be back at the barracks, too. They are my 60 fathers, Tien Pao said gravely. I was very bad there in the barrel. 60 fathers and a house, and my pig has a barrel with straw. He laughed exultantly, but he turned from the interpreter and the laugh erased itself. He knew only too well why the doctor had planned the surprise. The doctor did not expect him to have found his father and mother when he came back with the jeep to take him from the rock. In English, the interpreter repeated what Tien Pao had said, and the doctor nodded and smiled, but Tien Pao was relieved when at that moment he saw the rock. He pointed to it excitedly. There was his rock, and there lay the railroad track, and marvelously, people were still coming down that track. Oh, not many at the moment, but they still straggled along, and there now came a whole party of 10 around the bend. The doctor stopped the jeep, and Tien Pao got out with Glory of the Republic and his bag and carton. He hesitated. Would the good doctor wait until I'm at the top of the rock? These people are hungry, and my pig is food. Oh, we'll wait, the interpreter promised without even asking the doctor, and the doctor nodded his head. He understood. We'll wait, he said with a grin, imitating the interpreter. Tien Pao had lain on the rock for hours. The sun had gone over and was shining in his face now. The afternoon was passing. The sun shone bright and clear on the tracks below. Tien Pao lay concealed between a couple of huge boulders. An old woman passed along the tracks. He could almost count the deep wrinkles in her old face, but she was not a woman who had come far. She merely came down the track with a basket of grass that she had cut. She was full of wrinkles. Tien Pao looked into the afternoon sun, and there was nothing to watch on the track. He was hungry. The lunch had been eaten long ago. It had not taken long. One thin slice of bread, a little jar with milk, and a small banana. The sweet taste of lovely banana still lay along Tien Pao's tongue. He tasted it again by poking the tip of his tongue between his teeth. Glory of the Republic had finished the bag of peelings hours ago, had eaten the bag, and now he was eating Tien Pao's carton. Tien Pao wiped his eyes, which were blurred from sun staring. He could hide it from himself no longer. The endless procession of homeless stragglers from Hengyang had stopped. Oh, now and then a little family group still came jogging around the bend, but mostly those who passed were old people, slow old people who walked a little, rested a little. They'd just suddenly sit down on one of the rails, sit and stare without raising their heads. Tien Pao thought he heard voices. He waited, but Nothing came around the bend of the railroad track. Tien Pao anxiously stared at the sun again. Again he thought he heard voices. At last an old man came around the bend all by himself. He was talking loudly to himself. In the clear sunlight, Tien Pao could see the old stumps of teeth. As he talked below the rock, the old man abruptly sat down. He searched himself as if for food. He moaned a little. On top of the rock, Tien Pao felt miserable with him, feeling just what the old man felt. If he hadn't eaten everything, he would at least have thrown the banana down in the carton. But Glory the Republic had even eaten the carton. I'll show you a picture of the old man. The old man was pushing himself up again to stagger on. Glory of the Republic wasn't in any danger from him. The old man couldn't possibly climb the rock. Tien Pao stood up. "Grandfather," he called down, "are you from Hengyang?" Now, do you think that's really his grandfather? Or do you think it's nicer to say that than to say old man? It's not really his grandfather. "Eh?" The old man was startled. "You frightened me, lad," he said when he at last located Tien Pao. "Yes, I am from Hengyang. Why? Are there more coming, more families? Are there a lot more people who have possibly waited until the last and did not leave until after the Japanese had taken most of the town?" Tien Pao held his breath. "It seemed to me I was the last one," the old man said slowly. "It seemed to me I was so slow, they all passed who were once behind." Did a small family pass you? A tall man with big strides, a young mother carrying a little female child?" The old man spread his hands wearily. "My son, those are foolish questions. There were so many." "Yes," Tien Pao said in a small voice. The old man started on, but then he turned again. "Grandson, have you anything to eat up there? I hunger." Tien Pao mournfully shook his head. The old man pressed his lips together and moved on. After the brief talk, the silence on the rock and along the whole railroad track seemed to close in completely. A choking feeling lumped in Tien Pao's throat. It was no use fooling himself any longer, and he had known it all along. It was hopeless. He'd known it all along. They wouldn't come. They had either passed by or had gone along some other road to almost anywhere. Still, Tien Pao stayed on the rock. He could not seem to get himself to go back to the barracks of the white soldiers. Turned too many pages. The going down the rock, the going back to the 60 men would somehow prove that his mother and father were gone, and that all hope was gone. Tien Pao tried not to think, tried not to look down the empty railroad track. He made himself admire his uniform once more. He made himself very busy brushing the dust from it. He stroked the creased trousers back into a press, patted them smooth. He felt a lump. There was still another pocket he had not found before. So many pockets in these strange clothes. Tien Pao poked in the pocket. His mouth fell open as he withdrew a wad of Chinese yen notes. A roll of money. Not only had they given him a new uniform, they'd stuffed it with yen. Truly, these amazing Americans did not know the value of yen. Tien Pao started to count. Suddenly, he ran to the outer edge of the rock. "Grandfather, grandfather!" he called out as loud as he could. He knew real, deep, hopeless hunger and what it did. He'd give the old man much yen for food, for a big meal, and then for meals tomorrow and the next day. "Grandfather, grandfather!" The old man had passed out of hearing. The huge rocks along the railroad track mocked him. "Grandfather, grandfa!" Tien Pao looked at the sun. Should he run after the old man or wait until sunset? There was no one on the rock anyway. He turned for a last look, and then his heart stopped cold. Around the bend came a tall man striding. Behind him, a stooped woman came. A baby was on her back. Tien Pao trembled. His skin went cold. With shaky hands, he rubbed his blurred, smarting eyes. He kept his fist there. In his eyes, he did not dare to make sure. Wait a tiny moment. Catch his breath. He couldn't breathe. Why has he closed his eyes like that? I think he's afraid that it's an illusion, a hallucination. His heart pounding, Tien Pao dropped his fists a little, tried to stare over them, tried to find just the baby. He'd know by the baby. But if he looked first at the woman, if it was his mother, he'd plunge straight down the rock to get to her. He knew he would. He saw the man first. It wasn't his father. It was another family. Tien Pao turned his back so he would not have to see the woman with the baby pass. He stood wooden and completely empty, waiting for the sound of their scuffling feet to fade. After this little family was gone, he'd go back to the house of 60 fathers, the barracks. He could not go through this again. Suddenly the man was yelling at him. "Boy up there, did I hear you calling your grandfather? Did you lose your grandfather?" Tien Pao could not answer, could not turn at once. The whole family must be waiting. He heard no scuffling of feet. At last Tien Pao turned. Just the man was waiting. The woman had kept walking. And for that, Tien Pao was thankful. "Are you from Hengyang?" he managed to ask the man. "No, we're from a village, Mini Li, this side of Hengyang. The Japanese are holding all of Hengyang and are beginning to move again. They're coming on." "Beyond Hengyang?" Tien Pao said, stunned. Did you anywhere pass a little family just like yours from Hengyang? Just like yours?" The man looked up. "Your family?" Tien Pao nodded. "I'm sorry, son, nothing like that. All we passed from Hengyang were a few old and sick and dying, the stragglers." "But you were calling out for your grandfather. Did you lose your grandfather too?" Tien Pao dumbly shook his head. He could talk no more. The man still stared up, and Tien Pao knew he was curious about the uniform, but too polite to ask. He said nothing, and the man moved on to catch up with his wife. He took long strides. Now Tien Pao could not stay on the rock. It was too awful staring at the silent, empty railroad track. It was over. It was done. The Japanese had the whole country around Hengyang. Nobody was coming from Hengyang anymore. Tien Pao grabbed up Glory of the Republic, slithered and plunged down the steep path. He ran down the little dirt road. But suddenly he turned and charged back to the railroad track and ran hard along the track. The young family was gone, but the old man still groped along. Tien Pao caught up with him. He stuffed yen into the hand of the astonished old man. "For your hunger, grandfather, to buy much food." "It will go well with you, son. It will certainly go well with you," the old man said fervently. Tien Pao turned and ran back along the railroad track to the little dirt road below the rock. Okay, we only have one more chapter left, and it's called Break Down the Mountains. And we start off with a picture of Tien Pao with his pig. Well, we only have about 20 more pages to go. I suppose he could find his family, or he could just get settled in and be having a wonderful old time with the 60 men in the barracks. I guess we'll have to read and find out. But I like how he is repaying the kindness that others have shown him. Like the old woman who bought his railroad ticket, or the young woman who bathed him. All the people who have shown him kindness along the way, he is repaying it, and I like that. See you later. Bye-bye.